Good morning. Let's call the meeting of the California First Responder Network Board to order. Roll call will be, I'll conduct that. So we have Sheriff Jim Maley, or his alternate, Paul Troxel. Barry Frazier.
I'm here.
Bill Hartley.
Here.
Cynthia Gomez or Heather Hostler. Chief Kevin Guerrero.
Present.
Chief Scott Howland or Chief Patro.
Here.
Scott Edson from LA Ricks.
Here.
Thank you. Jeff Hunter or Tom Bruce.
Jeff Hunter's online.
Tony Travares or Ferdinand Milanes.
Here, on the phone.
Thank you. Chief Nathan Trowanich. Adelina Zendejas.
Here.
And Pat Mallon, I'm here. Okay. The first order of business is the minutes from the February 7th CalFRN board meeting. Are there any corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Motion by Adelina Zendejas,
I'll second.
second by Barry Frazier. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, introduction of two new board members. Sheriff Ed Bonner has recently retired, so the new representative will be Sheriff Jim Maley from Tuolumne County. So welcome, Sheriff Maley. The second is a representative from the LA Ricks project in Scott Edson, so welcome, Scott. Scott will be replacing John Radliff, who's now left the project. I would also like to make an additional announcement with the retirement of Sue Plants, who's been with Cal OES for a number of years and has been the main coordinator for this board. Is retiring. Her effective date of retirement is next Friday, the 14th. And so with that move, with her retirement, we'll be moving or transferring the responsibilities of support for the CalFRN board to Budge Courier. Budge is currently the branch manager over the 911 system and will be responsible for implementing the next generation 911. And so the FirstNet effort to field a public safety broadband network fits hand in hand with the 911 systems, particularly as we move to next gen. And so, Budge, it's now on your shoulders. Okay. So you can next month you'll be sitting up here, you know. Okay, on to the Buildout Prioritization. I'd like to give a brief update on a webinar that was held yesterday for state points of contact by FirstNet. For those of you that don't know, last week FirstNet did execute a contract with AT&T as their public-private partner to roll out the system across the nation and in California. I believe we've got two representatives here from AT&T today, in Scott Andrews and Barb Wynn. And so we'll be spending a lot of time with them over the next 6 months as they develop the state plan. What we heard yesterday from FirstNet was that in the FirstNet outreach to the to representation across the country, that they heard that the coverage must be equal to or better than it is today on the commercial cellular networks. That it has to be at a lower cost for use of that system. We need it now. Rural coverage is critical, and that's really essential here in California. And there's a significant interest in the device and application ecosystem. FirstNet plan to deliver will provide services to 99% of the population area on day one. That's what AT&T's commitment is. with a priority on existing AT&T, with a priority of reliance on the existing AT&T LTE network, with priority for public service or for public safety users on day one, with a preemption by the end of fourth quarter of 2017. They are also planning an aggressive public safety pricing initiative. Within 12 months, they will have a full quality of priority and preemption on all AT&T LTE bands, and the network evolution and access to hundreds of the AT&T deployables. I guess that would be on band 17, plus 72 specific band 14 deployables in the very near future. The innovative public-private partnership from the FirstNet, they will be providing project management, 20 megahertz of spectrum, as we all know, and $6.5 billion in funding. They will also lend public safety expertise and the relationships that they bring with us, as well as an innovative customer relations experience. AT&T will be contributing a $40 billion investment, $18 billion in system maintenance over 25 years, and $22 billion in system improvements in the next 25 years. All total, that will add to their $180 billion in infrastructure and services on the existing system, as well as their ability to implement cybersecurity, application security, et cetera, and their telecommunications expertise. Trying to shorten this up a little bit. Next steps is delivery of the state plans. That should occur within 6 months. Comments, it is to be an iterative process, so we will have the opportunity to provide comments as that plan is being developed. There's a lot of planning on the state side as well, and FirstNet will be providing guidance to us on a guidance package on how to look in through their portal to review the state plan as it's developed, the timelines, access control on that portal, terms of use for the state plan portal, state plan review process, comments, submission process, and preparing the state plan delivery. They are planning a SPOC meeting probably in June of this year with, again, further actions to follow. For next steps, FirstNet will be conducting kickoff meetings with AT&T, again, probably in June. They'll be providing information, throughout this period, as well as the release of the state plan guidance package. The CalFRN, we're going to be we certainly are looking forward to working with FirstNet and AT&T in the development of the California State Plan. One standing question posed by FirstNet that relates to the build-out of prioritization, and that's a task that this board has been asked to look at, with key points of concern to include rural areas of the state. We recognize that California is comprised of 95% rural. When you look at the state's geographic area, the majority of which is underserved by commercial broadband deployments. We have 109 tribal nations that are federally recognized, located in some remote areas of the state where there's little or no technology in existence today, and we need to work on coverage of theirs. We have the coastal areas, which provides a unique challenge, as well as the international border down along in the very southern part of California. Other questions that we have for FirstNet and AT&T include the existing infrastructure is limited. How will FirstNet and AT&T provide enough bandwidth capacity to serve the needs of public safety in all response scenarios? Interoperability must be coordinated between jurisdictional entities for data interoperability, and how will this be accomplished? With a 20% milestone set by FirstNet to be on each rollout phase within each state, is that on a state basis, or is that on a national basis? And that's rollout into the rural areas. How a bigger role will deployables play during mutual aid events, and what is the timeline for those deployments, particularly in some of our remote areas? And lastly, how will the $100 million investment in the LA-RICS LTE network be wrapped into the AT&T state plan? So those are a number of key points, and I'm going to turn it over to Barry, who has been working with the working group to talk about some of the prioritizations. And so with that, Barry?
Yes. Thank you, Pat. So as you all know, the CalFRN board created a state plan advisory committee last fall to basically support the state plan evaluation and review process, and also to look for and identify any possible alternative types of plans to the FirstNet plan. So last fall, the Cal-OES issued a request for information, and that request for information closed in January. The advisory committee has been very busy both developing evaluation criteria that we hope to use not only for the RFI process, but also for the state plan process from when FirstNet provides a state plan. And we set up 4 separate review teams, a tribal review team, governance and operations review team, technical review team, and business teams. And we developed a process and had those teams evaluate the RFI responses that we received. And we have completed that process. I can tell you that there were 6 vendors who responded. We learned a lot. We learned a lot both about the availability of viable alternative plans, and also the process itself. And one of the things I can say is that we learned a lot of good lessons about the process, which we intend to incorporate into future review and evaluation activities that we'll need to do as we go through the state plan process. We also learned that there was a lot of good information out there from the submissions. Also a lot of gaps in the submissions. Some of those gaps may have come from the way we crafted the questions in the RFI. I can say that we would like to see more information on service level agreements, also on coverage, the devices and the apps ecosystems that whoever ends up building this needs to provide. And we'll need more information on the financial and business models. And that is, that's information that we will use and incorporate into our future evaluations and fine-tuning our criteria, our instructions to our review teams, and the process itself going forward. I didn't mention that there was also, I think, a real deficiency in the responses to the tribal questions in the RFI. We felt that only 2 of the submitters provided any real information about service to tribal lands, and those even those submissions were not very detailed. So we know we're going to have to do more work on the tribal piece, and it's critically important here in California. Pat's mentioned it. We have a lot of tribal land here. We have, I think, over 100 tribes, and that's going to be a key piece of this for California. So what else can I say here? We did not select an overall winner or winners because it was an RFI and not an RFP. So it's not like we selected a winning proposal out of this, but we did try to cull the best information and the best pieces of best solutions and thoughts from these submissions, and use them to develop a really robust evaluation process going forward. We also found, I think we had a consensus that there was enough information to to determine that there are other potentially viable solutions out there. And so we have actually, if you're ready, we've actually recommended that the board take some action here to, let me get this down, to recommend to the Cal OES director that the state begin to develop a template for an RFP to solicit proposals for an alternative plan to FirstNet. We feel like we need to have that process beginning today as soon as possible, because it's a long and complicated process, and if we are going to have any alternatives to weigh against the FirstNet plan, we really have to start right away. So we're asking the board today to approve that recommendation to work with the advisory committee and with staff to develop an RFP. And then we would obviously come back and, well, obviously we would need to vet all of this through Cal OES and the director, but we would come back to the board at some point, I think, and basically say, we have an RFP, are we ready to put it on the street? But I think we need to develop the process and develop the document first. So what we're asking, I guess, today is that the board approve the recommendation to begin the process of developing an RFP for an alternative.
So are you making that a motion?
I will move that the CalFRN board begin to work with Cal OES and the advisory committee to begin to develop an RFP template to solicit proposals for an alternative plan to FirstNet. And let me just, well, okay, that's the motion. I'll stop there.
Do we have a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead. Heather seconds.
Okay, and so we have a motion from Barry Frazier and a second from Heather Hostler. Is there any discussion?
So at this point, I would just add to FirstNet that the more quickly we get the information that we can use to begin to evaluate the state plan, the better off we'll be. And so I'm hoping that we begin to get that information informally as soon as possible, because it could help us determine how and when to proceed with the RFP process. So I'm just hopeful we start to get information from FirstNet very soon on their plans.
Do we have any other comments? Anybody on the phone?
On the phone, at least. So Barry and I talked about co-location of FirstNet or AT&T on state facilities. For Caltrans specifically, we need to be really aware because of the Essential Services / Facilities Act that will be enforced. And also coverage issues for not only on RFP, but also on the FirstNet side. So just my 2 cents worth here.
Hi, Ferdinand. This is Barry. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, we did
Yes,
capture those concerns, and they will be incorporated into the next phase of this process through both adjusting our evaluation criteria to capture those requirements, and also keeping that in mind as we develop the documents going forward. So yes, that is one of the lessons we've learned out of all this.
Great, thank you so much.
Are there any other comments from the field, from the phone? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Is there any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through the roll and ask for a roll call vote since we've got a significant delay here. Hang on. Okay, Sheriff Jim Maley is not here. Barry Frazier,
Yes.
Bill Hartley,
Yes.
Heather Hostler,
Yes.
Chief Guerrero,
Yes.
Chief Rowe,
Yes.
Scott Edson,
Yes.
Jeff Hunter,
Yes.
Ferdinand Melanes,
Yes.
Chief Trutanich is not here. Adelina Zendejas,
Yes.
and Pat Mallon, yes. Okay, the unanimous, and we'll move forward with developing a template for an RFP. Next item up on the agenda is Barry's on your report on the PSAC.
Okay, thanks, Pat. I don't have a lot to report. We have not held a meeting, well, we haven't had a regular meeting since our last meeting here, so I don't have a lot of details to update you on. We did hold a webinar somewhat similar to the SPOC webinar yesterday on the naming of the new partner, and we heard, I think, many of the same details that the SPOCs heard in their webinar. So I won't go through any of that again. I can also let you know that Chief Harlan McEwen, who was the PSAC chairman since the PSAC began, has retired. And yesterday, we were told that his replacement will be Tom Sorley. Tom is a IT director with the City of Houston, good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. I was kind of hopeful that he would be named to replace Harlan. No one can replace Harlan. So, but to the extent that he will now be at the head of the PSAC, he's a good guy, and I think he will do well guiding the PSAC as we go forward. The only other thing I'll mention is we do have a regular webinar scheduled in April, oh boy, I think it's April 18th or 19th, and then we have an in-person PSAC meeting June 14th, which will be the day after the Public Safety Communications Research Broadband Conference that the PSCR has every year, and this year it will be in San Antonio, Texas. And so between the PSCR and the PSAC meetings that week in June, I'm hopeful to have a lot of good information and to bring that back to the next board meeting following our June meetings. So we were told during the webinar yesterday that the PSAC will continue to be very busy and active responding to specific technical requests that the FirstNet board will need to get information on. So I expect that we'll get more directions and more task teams that we'll need to set up going forward as we go through the state plan and the deployment process. So that's pretty much all I have, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Barry. Any questions of Barry? Okay, next item up on the agenda is the report from the statewide interoperability coordinator, SWIC, Budge Courier.
Back there was comfortable. Hi, I'm Budge Courier. I'm the statewide interoperability coordinator. So I'll try and limit my comments from that perspective. I'm also the 911 branch manager, so the PSAP interaction of this as well kind of falls within my lane. So from the SWIC perspective, the similar updates to last time, the planning areas are continuing to meet. The executive committee is meeting as well. For those that are in this region, May 16th, we're going to have a Capital Bay planning area meeting in this area. So we're trying to have it in Concord, and I'll get the details out on that for anybody interested. And the executive board, what we're focusing on there is we have a technical assistance program that's offered to the state of California through the Office of Emergency Communications, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. And each year we get to submit 5 requests for the state of California. We submitted 5, 4 got approved, and so we have our first scoping call that will start that process to get those technical assistance programs activated throughout the state. There's 2 that will be in the northern part of the state, 1 in the southern, and then we're going to take our Cal IFOG, which is the Interoperability Field Operations Guide, has all of our interoperability channels in it for LMR. We're going to take that and turn it into an electronic application-based format is the goal. And part of this commitment from the CalSEC was to have this as an ongoing technical assistance request so that as the IFOG updates each year, we can reach back out to OEC to update the app and get the data out there. So the idea is to get a tool in the hand of the first responders that lists all the interoperability channels as well as the details in each of the operational areas, 1 per county throughout the state, and all the state agencies have a nice overview in there as well. So with that, for this board, we need to think about what would a FirstNet interaction into that look like. So we would want to get that in maybe for next year's update, just to see what you'd want in that document. How would how would we feed into that? We're still in the planning stages, but I think it would be an excellent tool to get something out there in an electronic format that we would update on a yearly basis kind of as this rolls out. So that's the way I see that kind of fitting in. One other thing that I do is I sit on the National Council of SWICs, so each of the 56 states and territories has a SWIC, and we all meet and we have various committees and groups, and so I participate in those groups. And really, since the last time I was here, the talk is, when will the award be announced and who's it going to be? Well, now we know. So the expectation is that now there will be some actual meat put to what before was kind of a strategic plan. So folks are excited to see some real data. I'm looking over to AT&T here that go with with this rollout and what's it going to look like. And folks are interested in that detail level of what does it mean to me? How's it going to look like for my my sheriffs, for me as a sheriff, for me as a police chief, or my PSAP, or whoever it is. That's the next step of where we're at. So as this board gathers data and as we get information, there's a network on the SWIC side that I have in place for that outreach. So as you get data and documents and information, we can push it out to the SWIC community in each of the planning areas to help get the information down to those, specifically that have maybe more of an LMR focus, but they also are interested in this FirstNet piece. And then on the other side, I also have advisors in my 911 branch that reach out with all 442 PSAPs in the state and all the 58 county coordinators for the PSAPs. So that would be another information conduit to start feeding this data down to the localities. So those are already in place and they exist. And so, that's some of the synergy that Pat was talking about with my position that I can help bring. So I look forward to how I can work with the board to help disseminate that information to those groups I'm already working with. So any questions for me? That's just a quick update.
Thank you, Budge. Yes, and you can trust that in the 6 months as we develop this state plan, there is going to be a significant amount of outreach, to the various public safety agencies throughout the state. So through the PSAP coordinators as well as the interoperability coordinators and the county coordinators, you're going to be busy, Budge. Very, very, very busy. Okay, any other comments? Okay, public comments. Do we have any members of the public that would like to make any kind of a statement? Hearing none, we will adjourn if there is no objections. Any further comments before we do adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.